Welcome, welcome, welcome to Healthy in a Wild World, where we talk to you all about realistic solutions to heal your body and enjoy long term health and wellness. Today, we are joined by Dawn. She is a heart centered chair yoga teacher. She is actually going to be part of our upcoming 5-day challenge in April. So, if you have not seen that, just know, save the date. April 15, it is on. And as in our traditional style, I am going to let Dawn introduce herself. And yeah, take it away. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Bonnie. I'm delighted to be here with you all. As Bonnie said, I am a heart centered yoga teacher. I am focusing in on chair yoga now, although my favorite types of yoga to teach are the slower paced, more restorative practices. And the reason I really have been drawn to those practices in slow movement is that they highlight how you can continue to do yoga as you age. If you have medical challenges or physical challenges, the practice adapts to you. And that is one reason why I am so passionate about bringing these more restorative, they're called yin and yoga nidra and restorative practices into my sphere of influence and to my students. I have been teaching for about 6 years now. I am a Life Power 200-hour teacher. And what that is it means I was trained in the classical um, form of flow yoga called Ashtanga, which was then adapted by Johnny Kest into a fun, flowy, fitness style power yoga technique. But the beautiful thing is, I learned how to teach to the body, which I continued into my 300-hour training. So I do focus on working with my students and teaching them how to connect to their breath and to how the movements flow in their body, and really connecting to creating a mind body connection.
Mhm. Yeah, a little known fact about me is I actually started out a fitness trainer. So I lost weight when I turned 30. I lost 100 pounds and then I became a fitness trainer. And I was trained by NASA, and a my trainer, the person who helped me lose weight, she is a physical therapist from South Africa. So
Mm.
she taught me functional movement and why you use functional movement in your training, because and I will never forget her saying, because I was like, this other one's really, it's a lot cheaper. And I don't remember which one it was, but it was like a quarter of the cost. And she's like, yeah, okay, so you're going to do bicep curls and teach your client to do bicep curls. And then she's going to get into her minivan with her 10 kids. I don't know why she said 10 kids, but she's going to get into her minivan with 10 kids. And then she's going to reach back here. But because you're not doing this movement, now she's strained her muscle and tweaked her neck. But she's been working with you for 3 months. And it was just, it's not something that a lot of people think about, is that functional movement. The reason we do this is not so that we can lift 100 pounds one day. It's so that we can live and have a great life and not get hurt reaching in the back seat.
Absolutely. And to add to that, learning how to move within your comfortable range of motion. So it is a combination of the functional fitness, but it's also an element of being very mindful, or rather, in a more plain language way, is is paying attention to the way you move and what you do in life. So a yogic lifestyle is really holistic. It really is, incorporates the nutrition piece and the work that you do, as well as the mindful movement, the breathing, the meditation, which are traditionally what people think of when they think of yoga. It has its own moral code. It has its own modality. It has its own way of bringing you into that sense of calm
Mhm.
where you can recognize when your mind is starting to create um, create conflict or suffering,
Mm.
and then immediately your body's like, oh, I need to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And it's just so powerful, and that's for me been a huge part of my practice. I've been practicing about 20, almost 20 years now,
Okay.
and that has been a huge benefit for me, or a huge result for me, was to be in it's really transformed me from that crazy type A way up in my head to more of a grounded. I'm still a type A, I'm still very competitive, yet the way I approach my interactions is more from a sense of responding rather than reacting, and that can be really huge, especially for for people who may be suffering from autoimmune diseases, where the pain can be so overwhelming that you don't want to do anything else. And that's what I love about especially Yoga Nidra. All you have to do is lie there. My God, it's and then you just all you have to do is listen to my voice. It's pretty powerful stuff.
I love that. That's part of the reason we included restorative yoga in our last challenge. But I will tell you, and I gave people warning, is when I went through yoga instruction, when I went through that training program, and I tried two, and I was booted out of both of them. I am really good at boot camps, at running workshops, walking workshops, the activities. But for my brain and my body to slow down and practice yoga, I need somebody else's voice. I can't lead those classes, and doing those sessions were, oh, it was so hard. By the time I hit day 3, I had a clock on the wall, and I had marked all the 5-minute sessions so that I could just look at it and say, "You're not going anywhere." And, one of the things that I found, especially with, well, I mean, not even found. So one of the things that I talk about when I'm working with people, or, when I talk to people out in public about what you and I really do health wise and how we help people, is I refer to yoga practice. When you practice yoga, it's a practice for life. You're never you never master yoga. You constantly practice, day in, day out, you practice. And I always tell people that health, regardless of what it is a daily practice. You never get rid of it. And there's something to be said for including yoga that doesn't involve you doing very much, not putting it up.
Absolutely, that's so beautiful, and part of my philosophy is even pulling from the ancient traditions, the Yoga Sutras, the Bhagavad Gita, the teachings is, and those are just the names of those teachings. For those of you not familiar with yoga history, and to first of all honor that, I feel that that's really important, to incorporate those principles into the work I do. But really, what I like to do in terms of building on that concept of daily yoga is really taking ordinary moments. So, for example, you're brushing your teeth or doing your morning oral hygiene, and taking a moment to really pay attention to each movement, to the way the toothpaste feels in your mouth, the way the brush feels in your mouth. If you have an electric toothbrush, that vibration, the feel of the water as you rinse your mouth, maybe even slowing the process down. Um, Pausing. Are you rushing? Okay, no, I'm going to take my time. That's a huge one for me. I tend to rush through my flossing. It's been a love hate relationship with flossing my entire life. Anyway, I'm much better now. A lot of that is because I pay attention. Take the time. I just don't go through the motions. So that's been another real key result for me is in this transition with practicing is taking it from the physical practice of just going through the motions, so to speak, and getting that release on the mat and taking these tools off the mat into my daily life. It's really been pretty incredible. Even my family is noted. I'm much more present for them. Um, more so than I used to be. So, and I stress a little bit less, or at least I know how to manage the stress a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic to land on actually. So, the core root of the clients that I work with, they either have food sensitivities or they have some sort of autoimmune dysfunction. Many of them have been going in and out of doctor's offices for years. They're in pain, they're not living their life, they're barely able to get off the freaking couch because they're not getting any resolution. And, all the doctors are doing is throwing pills at them. And I mean,
Mhm.
granted, today I've actually heard more helpful stories. So the doctors coming out of school are now aligning with holistic health and learning nutrition, and I'm all for it. But there's still this element in the world that we need to help support. And when you come out of that, um, being able to be present when you feel like absolute dirt. And people call autoimmune dysfunction and illness a silent illness because you can't see anything. It doesn't look like there's anything wrong, but the internal pain and aches and the trauma that comes from that, the PTSD that comes from that, um, can really throw you for a loop. So having a practice so that you are present every single day and something that is just that can easily and seamlessly fit into your life. When
Exactly.
you're struggling with that pain, you need easy and you need something you don't think about.
Exactly. Exactly. And really, in as little as 60 seconds, you can have that change. Even if it is you're sitting on the couch and you set a timer for 60 seconds and just take deep breaths or just even observe your breath, observe the rise and fall of the breath in your body and just focus on that area. Some people feel it in their chest, some people feel it in their belly. That's why I feel it in my chest. That's why I put my hands on my chest. um, and that can be very powerful, and that can begin the process of learning how to listen to your body, and
Yeah.
that is a huge component of what we do as well. Is tapping into that connection, and that's something I feel very strongly about, because coming back to the concept of functional fitness, again, it comes back to paying attention to the way you're moving your body,
Mhm.
and not just flinging your body, and knowing how to listen to your body and knowing how your body moves in different through different exercises, whether it's regular functional fitness or it's yoga, or they're intertwined. um, that can be really huge, and in terms of even just sitting on the couch and not moving, your mind is pretty powerful. You could even set a 60-second timer and imagine you're lifting your feet off your 1 foot at a time off the floor, or you're lifting your hands up, or you're imagining yourself um, tipping side to side into side bends. And I have seen the results of that. I did that with one of my students, who is wheelchair bound and had challenges with her lifting her legs. We did this, that mind body connection, and she got her leg up without any assistance. It was, I am getting chills. It was incredible. That is the power of yoga.
Mhm. It really is. It really is. And I remember hearing you speak the first time in the whatever networking thing. I think we met and we meet, but
Mhm.
I remember hearing you speak and talking about, you know, reconnecting with your body. And that's something I teach my clients and have for a long time. I have so many people that ask me, what diet do you believe? Well, I don't believe in any of it. I think there's a group of people that can benefit from every single thing that's out there. And the only way we know what's best for us is by tuning into our body, by becoming a partner with our body again and reconnecting, because as a society, we have lost that. So, in like you said, that mind body connections, there's a lot that we can do when our mind is reconnected to our body. And we just take those few moments to do things like just sit, close your eyes, and visualize it. Visualize it. So I have a question for you because you brought up breathing.
Yeah.
And I know there are multiple different methods of breathing and practices within yoga and meditation. Is there any one that you find is more powerful or more healing and helpful than another?
Yeah, there are so many, and really it's individualistic, because some of the breathing techniques are a little more complicated to teach and can have a negative effect on people. So what I like to focus on is a combination of simply observing the natural breath and feeling the natural rise, the as I mentioned earlier, the natural rise and fall of your breath. I will sometimes cue imagining and tuning into the way the breath moves in through your nostrils and down into your lungs and reversing that. I did that just now, just recently, in another in a live I did on Monday in another Facebook group. I also like counting breath,
Mm,
because it's pretty easy to do and it gives your mind something to do. So there's a couple of different ways to do it, and the one that's probably most beneficial for people who aren't familiar with breathing techniques is to inhale for maybe a count of one or two, and then you exhale and you start with even the same count. So you'd start for an inhale, one, two, exhale, one, two. And then you can do inhale, one, two, and exhale, one, two, three. In fact, it was Susan Bartansky Bartansky. Um, she just did a reel on Instagram with this practice,
okay.
and I've seen other some of my other teachers, Christine Kennevery Weber, with subtle yoga, also uses this, and it when you focus on lengthening the exhale, it actually signals to your brain to relax. It sends signals to your vagus nerve and to the nerves in the relaxation part of your parasympathetic nervous system, and it brings the your body back into that state um, of relaxation. I know there's a formal term and I just can't think of it. I know it's flight, flight, fawn, and rest and
Breathe.
digest. There it is.
Yeah, rest and digest.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that would be that's a great place to start if you're new to breathing practices. And again, if you just do a few rounds to start, maybe set your timer for 15 seconds to start, rather than going a whole minute, or maybe you go 30 and 30, 30 seconds focusing on the counted breaths, and then the last 30 seconds just observing how your body changed or how your mind changed with that practice, just keeping your breath natural.
Oh, I like that. I like that. That's a great place to start. And it's definitely, it can be so overwhelming for people. You see everything out there and you Google breathing techniques. I'm pretty sure you started talking about it and several people hopped over to Google and went breathing techniques and ended up with a whole list of things and
Exactly.
that bad. Um, do you have any suggestions for people? So I'll tell you why I'm asking this. So when I first found out about my dairy allergy, I fought it for a good year, temper tantrum. And then I decided I was over feeling like crap and I needed to stop the temper tantrum. So I did, but what ends up happening is, you go out to dinner, you go to people's houses or whatever, and you don't know what's in your food and you're trusting that it's made correctly. So I went somewhere and I had a salad. It was a simple salad. All I said was no cheese. Came with vinaigrette, so it should have been relatively simple. Well, what I didn't know was they used a cream in their vinaigrette. And it was just one of many, many samples. I remember going to Chewy's and I took one chip and I put literally like the tip of a pen, dipped it in their jalapeno sauce, their creamy jalapeno, which if you're not from Texas and you do not know Chewy's, creamy jalapeno dip at Chewy's is the best thing on the planet. Um, and there's not a non-dairy version of it yet. Trust me, I'm still looking. But I dipped a tiny little bit of it and had an entire chip. And within seconds, I had basically melted into my chair. It's as though the thyroid just shuts off completely, and any energy production my body could have been doing has the signal's been turned off. My husband basically had to carry me to the car and
Mm.
bring me home. So, and I know my reaction is not as dramatic as many others. Well, it sounds bad. There are so many others that it's much worse. Um, and it causes issues, going out to eat, going to other people's houses to eat, going anywhere that there's food, and it causes some PTSD. Do you recommend anything specific for a PTSD situation such as that?
Yeah, absolutely. The breath. Your breath is always with you. So a combination of things. So movement can be helpful, possibly because the energy needs to go somewhere, and the more quickly you can move the energy out of your body, the less likely it is going to be stored into your body. And the body keeps the score. There is a book. It's intense. It's true. So each time you have a reaction, positive or negative, um, the body is your muscles and your joints and your mind are going in your mind too. Your mind, brain is a muscle. It's going to store that reaction, and that I will argue is partially why if it happens again, the mind immediately says, "Oh my gosh," and you have that negative reaction. When you breathe, and I actually have anxiety that creeps up, and it actually interestingly triggers or causes my hot flashes to
Oh,
appear. So that
interesting.
I've observed that direct connection. So what I do is I start with the breath, and I come back to my breath. I will take a few deep breaths because that begins the process of resetting the mind body connection and breaking, disconnecting from the experience and where you want to move to. And your breath is always with you. So all you really need to do is pay attention to it, and your breath will, with practice, help you move through that discomfort because it is temporary. It can be it is temporary, although it doesn't seem like it at the time, perhaps. The other option would be to, if you can, get up and move, or find if you're in a situation where you can't get up or you're not able to get up, you can imagine yourself moving, or you can even just move in a way that your body feels good in your body in that moment. It could be rocking, it could be forward and back or side to side. It could be, just gently shifting yourself, twisting, maybe side bends. It's individual. And really, this comes back to the point we were talking about before, is listening to your body and trusting that, and giving your body permission, your mind permission to move in a way that is safe for you, because safety is so important for me. Everything I teach is optional. I often encourage you to move. We call it organic movement. I've
Uh,
heard that used in my classes, and really, that's what you would want to do in this situation, just to move that feeling, that unsettled feeling through your body, and that anxiety. The breath is super powerful. I had another student, I've actually, the same one I was telling you about before, but I also had this situation with another student where they became overwhelmed during the practice. The pose or the movement just physically overwhelmed them, emotionally overwhelmed them, one of each. And what we did was I led them through breathing, just coming back to the breath, just stopping. And they were like, wow, that was incredible, because your body wants to move through it, and we're taught to suppress everything, and that's just so bad for our minds and bodies. And as you practice that technique of release, you may find the symptoms aren't quite as intense with practice.
uh,
They don't necessarily go away, but you can manage them better.
we'll have to include that. I have what I call the emergency kit. So charcoal capsules, like the activated charcoal, lemon water. One of the practitioners I work with actually she uses curated lemon water. I haven't
Mm.
tried yet. I'm gonna have to. I want to try the curated lemon. Um, but I haven't included the breathing yet. That's great. Because with the boys, when they're 3.5, so when they start melting down, we do what Daniel Tiger is basically Mr. Rogers of the day. Um, and what he teaches is you breathe 4 times. You know, when life gets too much, you breathe 4 times. When the brain is overwhelmed, you breathe 4 times. So I know I've seen with them how that has helped. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about your heart-centered chair yoga classes.
Sure, sure. So I will start with explaining why I call myself heart centered. And that has a huge chunk of my intuition. I walk into a space with my students, and my spidey sense, actually, sometimes even before class, if I know who's going to be in my class, um, I have an idea of what they may need that day. One-on-ones, I tend to do more of a check-in at the beginning of class. It's harder to do with a group class, but essentially, I read the room, get a sense of the energy. I have a plan in place, and then we begin to walk through the group class. So chair yoga, we use the chair as a prop. We typically start in a seated position, work essentially start class grounding, getting centered, getting getting present into the practice, and just putting any to-do list into a little box, and just putting the box aside. Not to say that thoughts won't creep up. They're always will. Your mind is always going, but we practice coming back to the breath each time we acknowledge the thought, say, okay, nope, not right now, and come back to the breath. There is, once we ground, sometimes there's a little bit of breath work at the beginning. I like to do it more at the end, because I like to warm the body up a little bit beforehand, and generally just light movement, depending on the style of the class. I have two different classes. I do chair zen, and I do relax and restore. Relax and restore is more of a slow flow, half movement and then half just sitting and being in a pose for 3 to 5 minutes, more of it's like a yin, that's a yin practice. And by staying in the poses, your body has an opportunity to release even more deeply. So it has the opportunity to move into the pose, to for the mind to tell the muscles, okay, it's safe, you can let go. And that can allow the body to actually move more safely into the pose, more in a more deep sense. So you get more deep into the body tissues and things like that. So warm up the body, and then we practice the longer held poses. Chair Zen is it's similar. It's a similar style, but we focus more on mindful meditation. So there's a little more meditation and less movement in that class. Um, and every class ends with recentering back into shavasana or a guided meditation, depending on the class. I'll often bring in elements of the Yoga Nidra practice, which is a technique of a guided meditation that uses rotation of consciousness. So you listen to my voice, and my voice takes you to different parts of your body, and that process takes your mind and body into that state between being fully awake and fully asleep. And and I've read studies, or I've heard about studies that have said that um 10 minutes of the yoga nidra can be as effective as a good night's sleep.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's another very powerful tool. And I am considering in the coming months of adding just a yoga nidra class. And the beautiful thing about yoga nidra, you can lie down in your bed. You don't have to. It's wonderful. Um, it's really great. So that's a sense. That's a summary of what I do. Again, it's very organic. I tailor it to the people in the room, um, and it's a lot of fun. 30-minute classes. It's really a, a reasonable investment, because you don't have to spend hours in the studio to get the benefits. And I'm online, which is even better, because then you don't have to go anywhere. You can wear what you wear. You just need comfortable clothes. You don't have to go to Lululemon, or um, so I don't know. There's other ones, but Lululemon came to mind first. You don't need the
That's the
fancy
one that's
stuff.
out there.
Yeah, yeah. So so
I
that's
have
yeah.
quite a few clients over the years that would have loved working with you for the simple fact that all they had to do was lay down in their bed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I'm seeing a need for the yoga nidra. People are really drawn to that for exactly the reason you just said. It's a beautiful practice for people who um, really want to, really are passionate about getting better, but
Mhm.
don't necessarily know where to start, or don't have the ability in this moment to move, or the thought of moving is just so overwhelming. Well, let's start with yoga nidra. It's incredible. I know for me, I've been practicing. I found some teachers locally who do yoga nidra, and they've sparked the interest in me. I'm like, that's perfect, because I've seen what it has done for me, and it's just incredible. Just especially being in perimenopause, it's hard to sleep through the night, and to be able to have this practice where I can just listen, it really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I can imagine. I have not tried it yet. I'm gonna have to try that because I think I just started. I just started with some hot flashes, and
Mhm.
the period has decided to go bye bye, but temporarily.
Right.
So the seasons are longer. So I have to try that because I'm not used to this and I don't like it. So
Yeah. And Yeah, there's a need for that too. So more to come. I'm very intrigued, and I know I have another teacher friend who is on the fertility side. So she's been studying the benefits of yoga for fertility and dealing with pregnancy loss and things like that. But there's also this element of, well, what do we do as we reach middle age maturity? We're in the waning phases of our fertility cycle, and i am um I am playing with a lot of the techniques to incorporate those into some of the work to the into the work that I do as well. So more to come. I'm seeing that in my future because it keeps coming up as a potential opportunity to learn from me, with the way yoga can help ease this transition, and again still connecting to the body.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's coming because I know for us, one of the things that we're finding is when we work with people, they're looking for just that one thing that helps them feel better right away. So they can get
Right.
just a little bit of wiggle room to start incorporating other things. And I think this is a great way to incorporate that. You know, if some people it's mindset, some people it's eating something different or having
Mhm.
drinking lemon water in the morning. I think most of the audience is a little tired of me mentioning lemon water first thing in the morning. But there's so much power in it. There's so much healing in it. And everybody has that one little tiny thing that's going to give them just enough wiggle room at the beginning to start feeling better.
And I want to add to the lemon water. Lemon water is part of one of the first things that I incorporated when I started exploring Ayurveda. And
Ah.
Ayurveda is even older than yoga. In fact, there are some I've heard recently, some say that yoga was birthed from Ayurveda. And Ayurveda essentially, in a very simple way, is learning how to eat holistically. So, Bonnie, what you do is very yogic. And
Yes.
it does have its roots in the Ayurvedic tradition. And I bring up the lemon water because I have noticed it does make a difference, for me. And I've been doing the lemon water for years, off and on, and then I really started doing it daily. And I don't do the warm lemon water. I put it in my 20 ounce with a half a lemon, squeeze it in there. It's usually room temperature because I leave it overnight. And
That's what
regularity. Oh, there's regularity.
you don't need coffee for it. You don't. It's an ongoing debate in this house whether you need caffeine and coffee or not, and I know I'm right, so it's okay. But every time I turn around, I my husband's trying to tell me otherwise, and I'm like, "No, you start with lemon water, you're fine."
Mhm.
And I do the same thing. If I don't make my lemon water at night, I'll steep it at night. I'll actually, because I make tea every night. It's something with that warmth at night. It helps me go to sleep, except summer.
Awesome.
Sorry, Texas summer is 100 degrees. I'm not having warm tea at night. But in the winter, and this is part of the reason I'm in the South and no longer up north, is I get very cold very quickly. That bedtime would be a great time for those hot flashes to show up. They don't, but that would be a great time for me. Um, because there's something about my brain going, "Oh, it's time to go to sleep," and all of a sudden now I'm freezing. So I always have some
Interesting.
hot. Yeah. So when I make my tea, I just make another cup and I throw my lemon slices in there or lemon juice, whatever I happen to have on hand. Um, and I put it next to my bed. And by the time the morning comes, it's room temperature and it gets sipped on all day. And I just keep adding to it. Lately, because of allergies, I've had the cucumber in it, because cucumber helps with getting rid of, like, the allergy baggies and, any inflammation you might have within your body caused by seasonal junk, and right now we are in cedar season, and I'm trying to stave off cedar fever because it sucks.
Yeah, I'm in California, Northern California, and we are going to be hitting spring here very, very shortly. It's still stormy, but it's February. So by the end of February, the first round of things will start blooming. I didn't know that about cucumber. However, fun fact, I have been craving cucumbers. In fact, when you said cucumber, I'm like, oh, I could need to go get cucumbers from my refrigerator. Now it makes sense why I crave cucumbers all the time, because I do have allergies. I being in California, it's really hard to be allergic to grasses and
Mhm.
um, mold and dust and pollen and I have an incredible ragweed allergy.
Oh, that
And
one is lovely.
it's interesting because I got allergy tested here in California, and my doctor's like, "Are you from here?" And I said no, because no joke, quarter size, it took about a month for that to go away. And he said it's only it's an East Coast ragweed or
Oh,
some sort of
that
plant.
makes sense.
I'm from New England, for
Yeah.
those of you who don't know me. Yeah, so I'm born and raised in New England and transplanted to California about 17 years ago. And yeah, so I don't, when I go back east, we went back east. It's an August thing. So it's the Ragweed's
Yeah.
August. We went down there around Labor Day. For the first couple of days, I was miserable because it was ragweed season, and
Mhm. You
it was
know,
crazy.
I do not go home in August anymore for that reason, for that reason.
It's
I have
smart.
I'm allergic to grasses, I'm allergic to ragweed, um, and yeah, I refuse to go home in August because I can't breathe. I can't
Yeah,
breathe. None of my holistic methods help. Nothing helps. It's worse than cedar season out here. At least with cedar season in Texas, I can manage it. Um, but yeah, I don't go home anymore. Not in August. I go home later in the season or,
yeah,
spring.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I avoid it in August and September. And the worst part about that is August, September, and early October are the hottest months here. So it'd be the ideal time to go back. But
exactly. Yeah,
I'm gonna come back to this Ayurvedic just for a couple last couple seconds we have here. It's funny that you mentioned Ayurvedic medicine. Majority of my degree is based in Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine. So I know a lot about both of those. In my herbal medicine classes and the herbal chemistry classes specifically, the instructors and the professors were trained. One was trained in Ayurvedic medicine, one was trained in traditional Chinese medicine. My aromatherapy chemistry classes were Ayurvedic and traditional Chinese medicine. He was my herbal medicine classes. So and I'm obsessed. I am obsessed.
yeah. I don't blame you. I'm just dabbling in it. And I've been, like I said earlier, I've been dabbling in it for a long time. I've known about it for a long time, but I've never been serious about it. So again, it comes back to mindset. So it wasn't time, and now it's time. I did a challenge, and that's kind of what tipped the balance for me. I'm like, oh, I finally found people or resources that were not so stringent. I balk when it's got to be strict. So that's one thing. Even though I am trained in a very strict or traditional practice, I don't teach like that, because I don't believe that you it's a one size fits all. I want it to be accessible. I want to break down this myth that you have to be fit and flexible in order to do yoga. I want it to be all inclusive, because the yoga you see on social media is very ableist. Um,
Yeah.
so So,
I
yay, exciting.
I have a tendency to make sure that when I'm using pictures in marketing, that I'm choosing pictures of people that are real. People in real life can really do this pose, you know? Um, it's very important. So as you're delving down this, just a little tidbit for anyone listening and for you. So traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic, they have a common component where they look at seasons, they look at hot, cold, wet, dry, right? Well, traditional Chinese medicine has 24 points in a year, and they're 2-week segments that align with seasons, produce, and the elements. And we're recording this the week of Chinese New Year. And one of the things that sparks off is this is the very first week of a wet to dry season. That's spring. So it's the very first time you're going to look at that. And when you look at these 24 points, what you want to look at, and you can find an outline, and I'll put the link below and I'll send it to you. You don't want to look at it as hard and fast. These are the dates because they have dates aligned with these. You want to look at how that aligns with the climate that you live in, because these points are in alignment for China, for Asia, not
Mm,
for the middle of the US, not for Europe. Those are for China. So they need to be adjusted and modified. And especially for homesteaders or gardeners, home gardeners, people who are growing their own food, this is one of the most helpful tools you could ever have. I mean, Farmer's Almanac aside, you align the almanac with this, and now you can plan out your entire year and the next year and the next year for gardening. And it helps with understanding what foods you should eat to manage allergies, to manage food sensitivities, to support your body through those seasons. And it's fascinating. It's a total rabbit hole. I'll see you in a couple months when you come out of it. It is fascinating and it's very informative at the same time, which is why I say it's a rabbit hole. Because I will introduce that to people, especially clients that come to me who are homesteaders, which oddly enough, I've had a few, and that will never be me. I'm not a camper. I will not go outside and sleep in the ground. Sorry. You will find me in a hotel. um, and when we talk about these points, it really does send them down this rabbit hole. And each and every one of them now has, because I've completed my programs with all of them. They've graduated, they're moving on, they're just in maintenance now. And each and every one of them has the next 2 years planned for their homestead. And
nice.
it's phenomenal to watch. And they've been able to do it because now they understand those alignments and how it fits into their life, which is really, that's what you and I talk about, and that's what we deliver. Is these are elements, these are tools and practices to include in our lives. I have to fit it in my life the way it fits the best, and you guys have to do that as well. Um, thank you for being here. I love that you and I are so synchronicitous in our messaging, and that we basically deliver very similar messages. It's amazing. These are things that we need to get blasted in neon. So
Yeah,
if
I
you're watching
agree.
this and made it this far, share it. Let's get this out there. People need to hear these messages. So one last real quick thing. How can people find you?
Absolutely. So you can find me on YouTube, Dawn Haywood's Yoga. I had to think about it because I have that one is the oddity in terms of the name, but it's Dawn Haywood's Yoga, HEYWOOD. And that, like, subscribe, comment, go back, look at old videos, binge watch. There's lots of good stuff. I have pose tutorials. I have educational talks, Dharma talks. I have longer form videos, lots of stuff, even some kid stuff for kids. I have a few classes for kids on that channel too, I believe. lots of playlists. Have fun exploring. You can also find me on Facebook. You can, I have a Facebook group, Yoga to Enhance Your Quality of Life. So message me, and I can send you the link to that, or we'll link it in the show notes. And then also Instagram, Dawn Haywood's, no, Dawn's Yoga and Wellness on Instagram. So we'll get all the links and drop them in the show notes, so that we can connect and get to know each other. I'm very excited. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. And yes, as usual, everything will be in the show notes. And we will tag you in this on YouTube. So you will see her tag immediately on the very first row. So all you have to do is click that, hop over to her YouTube channel. And I'm excited to look for your kids' videos because mine are doing yoga in school, and every day we have a dance party, and we do 30-second dance parties. When anything positive happens, they're celebrating something, we're going to do a 30-second dance party. And yoga is something that, like, I do Pilates on the floor or wall Pilates, and they call it yoga. So, so I'm always finding yoga classes for the kids to do that with them. So
Yeah.
go look for that. Well, thank
Awesome.
you so much for being here. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
watching. If you like it, you want to see more, like, share all the good things, you know what to do. And we will see you next time. Cheers.